In the start of this part, we see that there are two people. One is getting beaten, and one is beating. The person who is getting beaten says that he knows it. There are many dead people. He tells him that he is different from all those people. They were worthless and foolish. Protagonist tells him to shut up. He is laughing like a maniac and says that you're the only one fit to kill me anyway. Protagonist says that he is not the one who is going to kill him. He promised his team that to put him on the chair so justice can be served. Protagonist thinks, I still regret it to this day. I should have killed him back then. We see a news reporter. She shows a picture of the worst villain in history. She says, this just in. Sungwon Huang, the notorious villain that made the whole world tremble in fear, has been sentenced to death. A superpower suppression device has been placed on Huang, and he is currently imprisoned on the 5th basement floor of Rookulus Prison for vicious villains. In other news, some of our heroes who fought alongside Gongyu Seo against Huang have passed away. The joint funeral for the fallen heroes of equality will be held tonight. The government expresses its sincere gratitude for the selfless service of these heroes. Someone appears there and says, Gongyu, you're still recovering. You should be in bed, not watching TV. He is Rookulus Prison Inspector. Gango Seo. Gongyu thinks, that's my brother, and he is a corrections officer in Rookulus Prison. Hongyu says to him, you know what? I should have killed Huang myself. Gango says to him, you promised your teammates. He remembers what his teammates said to him. One girl say, heroes save people. It's not our job to kill, so we must not kill anyone, even if they are a terrible villain. Criminals are people too, so they have the right to stand trial. Gongyu says to her, that's nice and all, but what if we get killed? She says, promise us not to kill anyone, no matter what happens. Gonghu says to him, I agree with what she said. People should only be sentenced by the law, but it's corrections officers, like me, that have to carry out those sentences. This is confidential information, but Huang will be executed next week, and I'll be there as well. You did your job as a hero. Leave the rest to the corrections officers. Come on, let's go and say farewell to your teammates. We see people asking to kill all the villains. There are so many flowers and letters at the graves of heroes. Gongyu and Gango are also there. A week later, on the day of Huang's execution, my brother was killed. Gongyu is crying and asks, why? The criminal who was supposed to be punished by the law survived, while my brother, a corrections officer, was killed. He is sitting there alone. Someone appears there. She says, long time no see. She is a warden of Rookulus Prison.
세은요.
She asks him, do you have a minute to talk? She shows her a tablet. Gongyu asks her, what is this? She tells him that this is what happened during Hang's execution. We see that Huang is surrounded by officers. Huang says to one officer, hey, you look like Gongyu Seo. Are you his brother? But you don't have any superpowers. Is that why you're a prison guard? Who's the older one? You or him? He didn't reply. Huang says, tell me, how do you feel when you kill people? Gango gets shocked. Huang says, well, you're a prison guard and an executioner. I bet you've killed people, just like me. So how does it feel? I feel like it's too easy. Huang tells him that a gentle touch of his finger can kill anyone. Gango says, not me. I struggle with horrible feelings of guilt when I have to execute scumbags like you. Even though all I do is press a button, I get nightmares. Every villain tells him that he is a murderer like them. Gango says, the prisoners I executed torment me in my dreams. Huang says, but somehow, you're still working here. Gango says, well, someone has to do it. I'm just doing my job as a corrections officer. Before we commence with the execution of prisoner Huang, do you have any last words? Huang says, so, who's older between you and your brother? We will now start the execution. 3, 2, 1. When he is about to press the button, the video gets stopped. She says, right at the moment of the execution, all powers in the Rookulus went out. Everyone gets scared. Gango says, I knew it. Due to an unidentified EMP strike. Only he can kill me. He asks everyone to get down. Suddenly a big explosion happens. They calls for backup and also tells that the prisoner broke the suppression device. We see that the Huang touches him from behind. Something is happening to that officer. The officer gets popped like a balloon. Huang says to Gango, You know what I think? I think you're the older brother. Am I right? Gango tries to hit him, but he destroys his arm. Huang says, I got it right, didn't I? Gango tells him that Huang deserved to be punished by law. Just must be served. You monster. But Huang kills him without any second thought. All the officers are dead. Huang says, I'd better ask Gongyu if I got it right. Zhou tells him, and now the unidentified EMP strike set all prisoners on every floor free of their suppression devices. The good news is that we stopped them from breaking out of prison, but many of our officers got trapped in there with them. Gongyu asks her, who launched the EMP strike? She tells him that they're still looking into that. Zhou says to him, I'm sorry I have to ask this of you at your brother's funeral. Can you suppress the riot at Ruculus prison? He says, of course, but under one condition. We see that inside the prison criminals are killing all the officers and trying to open the door. Gongyu thinks, my teammates told me heroes save people, and we're not supposed to kill. And my brother, who was a corrections officer, said people can only be sentenced by the law. We see that the prison door is opening. Gongyu thinks, the people who carried out the sentence are the executioners. So, I don't want to go in there as a hero. Let me enter the prison as an executioner. Gongyu appears at the prison door and says, I'm Gongyu, your new corrections officer. They ask him, why is a hero wearing a prison guard's uniform? Well, nice to meet you too, jerk. They run to attack him. Gongyu destroys one of them with just one punch. He kills so many of them with just one punch. They get very scared. Gongyu says, hello? Mic testing. Listen up, you pigs. Under the order of the government. Solitary confinement on the ground floor. First basement floor. Second basement floor. Third basement floor. Fourth basement floor. Fifth basement floor. Everyone from the ground floor all the way down to the fifth basement floor. I will take over. Huang says, hey, you're here. Gongyu says, my brother's duties will be executed immediately. Criminals think, an execution? They get angry and says, what the hell are you talking about? You're gonna kill us? Gongyu says, you took countless lives yourselves. Why are you so upset about getting killed? One person says, countless lives? I didn't kill the many people. He actually killed 12 people, and his name is Kelida. Second person says, I have more fingers than the number of people I killed. His name is Brooks. He killed 7 people. Next person's name is Keed, and he just killed 5 people. They say that you are not the lawyer. You are not the one to decide. We see one person. He is very calm. His name is Choi. He killed 8 people. He thinks, while he's distracted by other prisoners I can. He tries to run away from there. But Gongyu kills him. Gongyu says I will give you a choice. You can put your suppression devices back on, return to your cells, and wait for your execution. Or you can die at my hands right now. One person says, don't be ridiculous. The latter is obviously the better choice. We'll still end up dead either way. We might as well put up a fight before we die. The terms of your negotiation don't make any sense. Gongyu says, this isn't a negotiation. This is the last bit of mercy I'm offering you. They says that they're going to put their device back on. Suddenly he says, listen, a hero of equality or not, there's just one of him. He can't deal with our numbers. In fact, I've killed a second-tier hero before, and I did it through teamwork. That's right. Don't get intimidated by his name. Let's make quick work out of him and find freedom. Gongyu says, you must be the scumbag the warden told me about. Gongyu remembers what Ju told him. The prisoner in Ruculus are grouped by their threat level. The ground floor holds over 300 serial killers who have murdered several people. The first basement floor holds over 100 criminals who put towns in danger. The second basement floor holds over 30 criminals who put cities at risk. The third basement floor holds 10 individuals who made an entire nation vulnerable. The fourth basement floor holds 5 people who posed a threat to an entire continent. And the fifth basement floor holds Huang and other 2 criminals who put the entire world in danger. I know that a lot, but you'll only have to face a number of them. We see the second basement floor. 2 girls are there telling criminals to confess their sins. Both are using magic. We see the fifth basement floor. There is a girl. Huang says to her, I don't know anyone else down here. Now, I can kill some time until Gongyu gets here. Ju says that the things are a bit different on the ground floor. All the prisoners are united here under this man. Hillison. He has a special superpower which enables him to shout and empower target around him. Gongyu says to him, "You attacked a hospital with 30 other criminals to kill 7 civilians, and a second-tier hero named Hayes, for a total of 8. Hillison says, 10. It was 10 people. That hero lady was pregnant with twins. Gongyu calls the warden and says, "I might have to use some force. How sturdy is this prison?" She tells him not to worry, it won't break down no matter what you do. Gongyu says, "Then I won't have to hold myself back." Hillison says, "You're bluffing. You barely did anything in equality. I bet you captured Huang by sacrificing your teammates and getting the final tap. We'll send you to your teammates." He shout, "Strengthen." Everyone gets power buff. He orders everyone to attack him. Gongyu kills all of them without any problem. Hillison gets scared. He hit the ground and sent everyone flying with just the pressure. We see one prisoner. He says, "Is the Gongyu?" Hillison gets scared. Gongyu is about to land a punch and says, "Mode." Hillison orders his companion to stop him, but no one is capable of doing that. Gongyu used Mode 1 and killed many of them. Hillison also got cut in half. Everyone is dead on the ground floor. Gongyu says, "All floors on the ground floor have been executed. I'm heading over to the solitary confinement cell." After that, Gongyu thinks, "How many did I kill? Dozens? Hundreds?" He asks 2 criminals to make their choice. They run to attack him. He kills 1 criminal, and the second criminal says that he will go back to his cell. Gongyu thinks, "She said there are about 300 prisoners on the ground floor." Gongyu asks him to come and take his suppression device. Criminal goes near him and suddenly change his mood and attack him. Nothing happens to Gongyu. Gongyu thinks, one of the villains Tomi captured supposedly said, "I really pity people who don't have physical-type superpowers." Tomi, a member of Equality. She says, "They can only fire at targets from a distance, so they will never know how ecstatic it feels to crush a person with your bare hands." Is this supposed to feel ecstatic? It just feels like crushing an egg with your fists. After that, he enters a room. There is one criminal. He says, "I was wondering what the commotion was about." "So it was you. How long has it been?" 3 years? "Long time no see, Gongyu." This is the solitary cell on the ground floor. This criminal's name is Chuck Fielder. His crimes: cannibalism and desecration of corpses. Fielder asks him if he remember him. He says, "So you found yourself a new job, but you don't look too well." Gongyu says, "Choose. Put your suppression device back on or die." He says, "I knew we'd see each other again one day. If the early days of that Equality team of yours." Fielder remembers how he got caught. He is covered with chains so he can't move. Gongyu notices something. He sees a dish full of human meat. Fielder asks him, "Doesn't it look tasty?" "They're freshly killed and cooked, so it's gonna be scrumptious." Gongyu says, "He leaves me no choice. I'm gonna have to kill him." Again, that girl stops him. "Bro, I don't like this girl. What is wrong with her?" Anyway, she asks Gongyu to stop. Gongyu is very angry. Fielder says, "You looked very unhappy when your teammates decided to subdue me instead of killing me. If you don't answer my question, I will assume you choose to die now." Fielder asks him if he knows why he killed people. Gongyu kills him and says that he doesn't care. But in his last moments, Fielder tells him that he killed people so they will remember him. How is he still alive? He says, "When I kill someone, I become the most memorable person in their lives. I can use my power to engrave the memory of me in their eyes, so they'll never forget me, not even in death." His superpower is hallucination. Fielder says, "As proof of that, I remember everyone I've killed. Shall I name them one by one?" This girl was. Suddenly his hand cuts down by Gongyu. Gongyu says, "Not bad. So that's why you're in solitary confinement. I was aiming for that talkative mouth of yours, but I guess your superpower didn't give you time to dodge it." Fielder says, "Let me ask you something before I die. Do you remember the people you've killed your way here?" Gongyu tells him that he didn't know anyone because no one remembers scumbags. Fielder creates the illusion of his teammates in front of him. His teammates asks him not to kill anyone. Fielder says, "But maybe you'll remember this." Gongyu cuts down all of them and says, "All the tricks you have up your sleeve?" Gongyu cuts him down. He says, "I'm not a hero anymore. I'm a corrections officer now." Fielder says, "You are not a prison guard. You're nothing but a monster. You're no different from Huang. We see Huang, he says to the girl who was with her, come on, you won't even fight back. How long is it gonna take Gongyu to get here? Or maybe I should head up instead. We see 3 people, 2 girls and 1 boy. Boy asks girl, when do you want us to intervene, Sinka? Sinka says, he showed up. She is seeing Gongyu on a tablet. She says, that man is gonna be my husband. Man's name is Canis. He says, your husband? Sink says, yes. He's gonna be my hubby. Canis says, but you said you want Huang as your husband. Gato says, that's right. Isn't that why we fired the EMP strike to save Huang? Canis says, beside that guy is a hero. He's an obstacle to the progress of mankind. Sinka says, he was a hero. He doesn't seem like one now. Canis says, then chosen one. Gato says, yeah, polygamy is illegal. Sinka says that it's a tough choice. Do I go for the younger one or the older guy? But I guess I'll have to choose one since they don't get along. Then the one who survives will be the man I choose. I wonder which one will make it out alive. Ju appears there. She says, well done, Office SEO. You wasted no time clearing the ground floor. The prisoners get exponentially more powerful from the first basement floor, so I suggest you get some rest.
Seo replies, no.
I'll head down right away. Please open the door. She says, I see. I have a favor to ask you before you head down. I'm still getting signal from surviving correction officers in the lower floors. Please help them so they may return to their families. Seo asks her, do you know how many officers alive on each floor? She tells him that she don't know. All communication devices below the first basement floor have been smashed up, except on the 5th basement floor. It's as if someone wants us to see what's going on down there. Gongyu says, I'll get going. Warden tells everyone that she is going to open the door that leads to the first basement floor. She says to Gongyu, I'll says this again. Be careful down there, because these prisoners are much stronger than those on the ground. Gongyu enters the room and sees that all the criminals are fighting with each other. Ju is worried about Gongyu. Someone appears in front of her and says, I wouldn't worry about him, because you have your own problems. That criminal grabs her from her neck. Criminal says that he always wanted to kill her. This is great. He calls other criminals, but suddenly sees that everyone is dead behind him. He gets scared. He sees that he is about to get hit by Gongyu's punch. He kills him. Gongyu asks her to not stay around. When they open the next floor, it's not safe. She says, I got it. She informs him that Tomoki, the villain Tomi captured, is in isolation on the first basement floor. He says, I know. We see first basement floor isolation cell. There are some criminals talking about the voices that they heard. They assumes that the other criminals managed to escape. Tomoki is there. She says, idiots. Of course they didn't. Do you think any of us can make a roaring sound like that? I told them to stay, but they just wouldn't listen. She killed 28 heroes until now. She says, see? There's a reason why you lot ended up as villains in the first place. You don't think with your head. She was a hero before. One criminal asks her if she wants to die. She asks him, you think you can kill me? You're all here for killing civilians. Have you killed anyone with superpowers? In fact, have you even fought against one? I guess not. You wouldn't be here if you did. Criminal says, I'll kill on right here and now. She attacks him. After killing him, she asks him, who's killing whom now? Arrogant bastard. I captured countless villains as a hero and learned how to fight against people with superpowers. I used that knowledge to kill a bunch of heroes as well. So join forces with me. I'll tell you how to hunt down someone with superpowers. Because I know Gongyu's abilities. Criminals asks her, what? You know about Gongyu's abilities? How do you know that? She replies, I had a long career as a hero, you know? I know many things about most heroes. Criminal asks her, but what difference does it make? We will call Gongyu as SEO from now on. Criminal says, SEO was a part of equality, which means he's a first-tier hero, unlike you. You are nothing but a third-tier hero. She says, after Rausa became the leader of equality, she started the reformation of the entire hero industry. Firstly, she redefined what it means to be a hero and banned heroes from killing villains. Secondly, she regularly made heroes train together in groups. And lastly, she abolished the tier system. which ranked heroes into 5 different tiers. So why am I telling you this? The tier systems were abolished before SEO joined Equality. No one was expecting him to join the group because he didn't have any notable achievements on his own. So there were rumors that he either had powerful connections or was Rouse's secret lover. Criminal says, "You right, I've never seen SEO fight at all. And yet, it barely took him any time to wipe out the ground floor. That means he at lowest as powerful as a second-tier hero. We can't fight someone like him." She says that the ground floor was full of weaklings. Even you lot could have wiped them out. Red hair person's name is Kim. He murdered 1,738 people. Second person's name is Ron Rio. He murdered 1,983 people. Third person's name is Curiel. He murdered 2,270 people. Purple hair man's name is Midjonak. He murdered 3,251 people. And lastly, this person's name is Speech. He murdered 6,435 people. She says, "I'm not saying SEO is weak. I'm sure he's pretty strong, but I know his weakness. That's why I'm telling you we can hunt him down." Speech asks her, "Are you sure about his weakness?" She says, "Come on. Why are you being so indecisive, boys? You don't have much of a choice here anyway. So what's it gonna be? He's getting closer by the second, you know?" Everyone joins her. Lastly, she asks from Speech if he wants to join her. He says, "Fine. I'll fight with you too. What's the plan?" We learn that the superpowers first observed in humans several centuries ago. Over the years, researchers studied the phenomenon and grouped the abilities into 3 categories. Physical-type superpowers modify and strengthen the user's body. Creation-type superpowers allow one to create material out of nothing. And special-type superpowers are all other powers that don't fall into the 2 categories above. SEO appears there. They say that the target is in the area. Speech asks her, "Can you see him?" She says, "Yes." She is using physical-type superpower brainwave communication. She thinks that SEO has physical-type superpowers, just like me. Tomoki thought she knew Gongyu's weakness because she had seen him train when she was still a heroine. Gongyu is using a robot to train himself. Gongyu asked them to make a choice. Put your suppression device back on or die. Suddenly he gets attacked by something. Tomoki knows that he never dodges the attack. Tomoki placed prisoners with creation and special-type superpowers behind the fortified cell door to blast attacks at Gongyu from a distance. So many criminals are attacking Gongyu at once. Speech says, "You're right. He's taking all the blows." Tomoki knew why Gongyu didn't dodge any attacks. He simply didn't feel the need to dodge them. And that's why Tomoki added something to the barrage of ranged attacks. Suddenly, so many things held Gongyu in one place. These are superpower suppression devices. Speech says, "I searched the dead guard bodies and got these devices like you asked. But these are for prisoners on the first basement floor. Will they work on him?" She says, "Don't worry. We just need to get a bunch of them on him. 10 of those should be enough to suppress a second-tier hero, and 15 for a first-tier hero. We have enough to seal his superpowers. Million can attach the devices on him while the others bombard him." Million killed 2,421 people, a special-type superpower that can make items lock on a target. She says, "But let's play it safe. Just in case. 30 devices should be more than enough to get the job done." They are happy because they were able to get the suppression devices on him successfully. But Tomoki's plan had 3 flaws. The first flaw, Gongyu is more powerful than any other first-tier hero. Speech is shocked after seeing Gongyu smash through all the suppression devices. Tomoki also gets shocked. Now criminals are trying to run away. Speech tells everyone that now is the time for Phase 2. They make some guards their hostage, and they say that if you want to save them, before they even complete their sentence, Gongyu uses his powers to suppress them. The second flaw of Tomoki's plan. Gongyu's superpower isn't limited to his physical-type abilities. He also has special-type superpowers. The third and the last flaw in Tomoki's plan. Criminals are trying to hide from him and planning on putting the devices back on. One criminal says that he'll put the devices back on. But now he is late. Gongyu kills him without any second thought. Tomoki tried to set a strategy to fight someone she had no chance of winning against. Gongyu tells them that they are late. Speech is very shocked after seeing his powers. Speech is angry at Tomoki and asks her what is that? They got wiped out. Don't you have a backup plan? She says, this can't be. It's impossible. Speech says that he shouldn't have trusted her. She is still wondering why suppression devices did not work on him, despite attaching 30 of them. Tomoki says shut up and kills him. She gets angry and says, how dare you yell at me? Do you think you're better than me? We attached enough devices to suppress a first-tier hero. But how did he break them all? If he's really that strong, why didn't he even fight villains himself? None of this make any sense. Damn it. She sees a guard laying on the ground. Guard is crying and asking for help. Tomoki is about to kill her, but Gangyu cuts down her hand. Gangyu says, heroine Tomoki. Or should I say inmate Tomoki? Do you have any last words? She says, well, I'm screwed. Gangyu asks, are those your last words? Tomoki asks, is it true? Are all the heroes of equality dead? He replies, yes. She says, I see. Then I guess Tomi is dead too. So she's gone. I told her not to become a heroine, but my foolish sister would never listen. Anyway, I can't believe you killed people when you used to be a part of equality. Do the other heroes know about this? You know how hard Rausa tried to change the hero industry, don't you? But you undid everything she worked for. Rausa must be turning in her grave right now. Gangyu asks, are you done yet? She thinks there is something wrong with the hero industry. That was the first thing Tomoki felt upon becoming a heroine. The fact that heroes hunt villains. After that we see a girl as hostage. She asks for help. The villain says, don't move a muscle. If you do, hero instantly kills him and the hostage as well. She thinks, gave them immunity even when civilians were killed in the process. Heroes were above the law. Hero smiles and says, mission completed. Tomoki became a heroine named Bliss for a very simple reason. Tomoki's sister asks, what would I do without your help? You're a heroine. You're incredible. Tomoki's little sister Tomi. But unlike Tomoki, Tomi didn't have superpowers. So she always got help from Tomoki and her superpowers. But there was. Yeah, you're right. Am I awesome or what? Something twisted about Tomoki as well. As a heroine, her job was to save people. A girl says, thank you for saving me. Hero Tomoki says, don't mention it. She thinks, but she didn't do it to serve the greater good. I'm only doing what I ought to. She did it to feel a sense of superiority over the rest. Then one day, Tomoki killed a villain on one of her missions. It was her first murder. It made her feel an overwhelming sense of superiority. She had never felt it before. Oh, killing someone feels so ecstatic. After her first murder, Tomoki couldn't stop and she killed anyone who came across her path. For villains and civilians to heroes. In particular, she enjoyed killing her colleagues who were weaker than her, for the look of surprise and betrayal on their faces. After they lose a battle against Tomoki, villain says, please, don't kill me. They all made a certain expression, and Tomoki couldn't get enough of it. But no crime goes unpunished. Tomi thought it was strange that Tomoki always came home late, with a heavy scent of blood all over her. So one day, she followed her sister and witnessed her in the act of murder. Tomoki and Tomi see each other. Tomoki says, I told you not to leave the house when it's late. Oh well, I guess it's too late for that now. Tomoki asks Tomi, want to join me? What? If not, I'll go ahead and do it myself. No. That's how Tomi unlocked her superpower. And stopping Tomoki was the first thing she did as a heroine. Tomi says, Tomoki. After that, Tomi officially registered as a heroine and started tracking down Tomoki, who was now a villain. And one day, Tomi tells that Tomoki is the villain. You are under arrest. Tomoki asks, did you have to add that villain part? I'm your sister, you know? How upsetting. I can see your superpower is stronger now, but that's the terrible part. Summoning isn't a physical type or superpower. I really pity people who don't have physical type superpowers. They can only fire at targets from a distance, so they never know how ecstatic it feels to crush a person with your bare hands. You will never understand how I feel, my little sister. She says, you are no sister of mine. Tomoki asks, how did Tomi die? Did she go in peace? Gangyu says, Tomi. Tomi died in the battle against Sungwon Huang. Tomi is dying and she says, "It hurts. Come and save me." Tomoki, Gongyu says, calling out your name as she died. She says, "I shouldn't have asked. It left a bad taste." She gets ready to fight. She jumps toward him. He gets stabbed. He disappeared. He appears behind her. He kicks her. She goes flying and hits a wall behind her. She appears in front of him really fast. He punches her in the stomach. She coughs blood and falls on the ground. Gongyu tells her, "You're an inmate on death row. But it saddens me that I must kill my teammate's family." She says, "Then maybe you could spare me. You're a hero. I thought Rausa made you promise not to kill anyone." Gongyu says, "No, I'm not a hero anymore. But please, don't kill me. I don't want to die. I really don't." Gongyu says, "Listen to yourself. Isn't that something you heard over and over again?" He asks, "What was your response to them?" He says, "The sounds of Gongyu fighting the prisoners. Send a tremor through the prison." And the sounds of Gongyu fighting the prisoners. Send a tremor through the prison. And the sounds made one fall in love. Sinka asks, "Did you hear that booming sound just now? It must be Gongyu." Oh my goodness. We see a prison guard is really scared and says, "What's going on up there?" He thinks, installed fear in some. Gave someone something to look forward to. Huang says, "I can't keep waiting anymore. I'm heading up right now." He gets hit by something really strong. Huang says, "What a nasty shock." Attacker asks, "Are you a bored kid? Why don't I play with you?" His name is Kingston. Huang says, "You look scary, Gramps." Kingston says, "Oh, hardly." Fifth basement floor prisoner on death row, prisoner namer 0001. "I'm just a kind old man who likes to play with children." The guards who are watching the fifth basement floor through cameras suddenly calls ma'am. She asks them what's the matter. They tell her to take a look at sublevel 5. Kingston and Sungwon Huang just met each other. She tells them that's good news. Guard is surprised and asks what? She tells him that means one of them will surely die. Personally, I hope Kingston will win, since he's not as threatening as Huang. But why is he keeping that woman in the air? Huang asks Kingston, "If you're gonna play with me, Gramps?" He replies, "Sure." Huang tell him, "I don't wanna." Kingston asks, "No, but I would like to play with you." Kingston is the first criminal to be ever locked up in Rookulus, and he is its longest-serving inmate. But unlike most inmates in basement levels 4 and 5, who were imprisoned for killing millions of people, Kingstong only murdered 3 people. His first victim was Caracas, the most powerful and heinous villain of his time. The other 2 victims were Clark and Hilo, the most powerful hero duo at the time. Kingston appeared out of nowhere and killed the 3 most powerful people in the world. We see a flashback where young Kingston says, "I killed everyone who was said to be invincible. Does that make me the strongest person in the world?" How disappointing. After saying those words, he let the government take him. He was a big threat to the world, but he only killed 3 people and voluntarily turned himself in. He was also helped by the fact that the government and the Heroes Association weren't on good terms at the time. Those 3 factors allowed him to defer his execution for 30 years. Kingston tells Huang that, "I won't kill you, so let's play a little game. I don't trample on young shoots before they can grow." Huang replies, "Okay, fine." Huang makes all the dead guards float in the air. He makes them into blood balls. And tell Kingston that I guess I could play along for a while. He throws the blood balls toward Kingston really fast. Kingston gets ready to block. He easily deflects and dodges all the blood balls. All the blood balls explode with a loud bang. Kingston smiles and tells him that, "I thought you used telekinesis, but the way you attack and defend tells you actually don't. Well, do you have any other attacks?" Huang says, "I changed my mind. Playing with you doesn't sound fun. Gramps, what's the point of killing someone who will die of old age anyway?" Kingston says, "You're an arrogant brat. I've seen many people like you who think they are the biggest fish in their little pond." Kingston steps on the ground, and the ground under his feet starts to blow up. Kingston tells him they let their ego get the best of them. The prison is shaking. One of the guards screams, "The building is coming down." Seiyun tells him to stop overreacting. Recluse Prison has 20 layers of special walls that can withstand the power of first and second tier heroes. It will never fall. So calm yourself down. Kingston gets angry and says, let me teach you some manners. Kingston jumps. Huang is surprised. Kingston appears in front of Huang. He is about to kick him in the face. Huang gets hit in the face. Everything is trembling. Guard is really surprised to see something. Seun asks, is everyone all right? She asks, who won the fight? Guard tells her that's not the problem. The attack destroyed all the walls. Huang is unharmed. Seun gets really scared and says, we're screwed. Huang says, whoa, he's a libbling drilling rig. How many walls did he break through? This could be interesting. Maybe I should follow him out. Sinka appears there and tells Huang, no. Why follow that old man out? It will be more fun to stay here and talk with me. Seun and a guard are really surprised to see them and says, what? Huang asks, who are you? She says, you can find out more about me if we talk. Seun is really angry and asks who the hell is that girl and how did she get to the 5th basement level? What's going on? Sinka looks toward the camera and says, but first, the spectators can go. She turns off the camera. Gongyu is standing in front of the 2nd basement floor level gate. He told the warden, I cleared out the 1st basement floor. Please open the gates to the 2nd basement floor. Warden says, Gongyu. Hold on. Signal is cutting. He calls warden, but wasn't able to. He thinks the signal must be bad in the basement floors and opened the big steel doors of the 2nd basement floor with his hands. Gongyu went down the stairs to the 2nd basement floor. Unlike the ground floor and the 1st basement floor, which smelled of blood everywhere, there wasn't a stench in the 2nd basement floor. In fact, there was no one, and not a single corpse in sight. It was clean to a fault. Some monsters are chasing a female guard. He screams, get away from me. She sees Gongyu and calls him Gengo. He kills the monster immediately. She is really surprised. Gongyu asks, are you all right? She hugs him and says, Gengo, I thought you were on the 5th basement floor. But what was that just now? I didn't know you had superpowers. That was awesome. Why didn't you ever tell me? He pushed her and told her, I am not Gengo. I'm his brother. She is surprised and says, what? Are you the hero Gongyu Seo? But why are you in an officer's uniform? I mean, what are you doing here? Gongyu says, you must be Gengo's colleague. It's not safe here. She says, I'm sorry about that. Brother-in-law. He is really surprised and asks what? She says, we haven't met before, right? I should have introduced myself. I'm going to be your sister-in-law. You and Gengo really do look alike. After that, we see the 2nd basement floor isolation cell. A girl says, Mile? It sounds like an outsider is our midst. Meal replies, yes, Meal. I wonder how many sins the outsider has committed in his life. Mile says, the outsider killed my dog. Meal asks, really? Then it's simple. The outsider is going to hell. Gongyu's sister-in-law tells him that, I've only seen you in videos and pictures. You're much better looking in person. Nice to meet you. I'm Jia Hong, a corrections officer. Gongyu says, my brother told me he has a girlfriend, but he didn't tell me anything about getting married yet. She replies, oh, so the thing is, look at this. Your niece or nephew is growing right here. Giju says, what? She tells him it hasn't even been a month, so it hardly shows yet. We only found out a few days ago. So Gengo said he'll tell you about it. After Huang's execution is over, Gongyu asks, is that really true? She replies yes and asks if that's a problem. He says, no. She asks, but what brings you here, Gongyu? Are you here to subdue the riot? And why are you in an officer's uniform? He tells her, I was commissioned as a special corrections officer to execute all prisoners in Ruculus. She is surprised and asks if you'll be carrying out the executions. But why? Did the warden make you do it? Gongyu tells her you don't seem to know what happened, so let me quickly fill you in. She says, an EMP strike? But who could have done it? Gongyu tells her they are still investigating the matter. She asks, what about Gengo? He must have been on the 5th basement floor for the execution. He tells her Gengo is sending rescue signals from the 5th basement floor. She says, I'm so glad to hear that. Gongyu asks, it's not safe here. Let me take you upstairs. She says, no, I'll stay. She tells him I can make it easier for you to make your way down. ULL need my help. Gongyu asks her what makes you say that. She tells him I have the ability to read a person's memories by looking at them. Oh, but don't worry. I didn't read your thoughts. I only do it when there's a good reason for it. I use my ability to provide inmates with psychiatric help and to find out whether they are guilty or not. Gongyu asks, how will that help me? She tells him the entire second basement floor is under the control of Miel and Mael, the inmates in the isolation cell. The siblings both have summoning and special type superpowers. They summon a creature. It stabs people in the heart. Then they use their ability to make puppets out of their victims. Currently, all prisoners are on sub-level 2. Are there puppets? He tells her that I know theory power. Because they are Mago's pupils. I don't need information about them, so please head up and leave. She says no. Some of the combatant puppets the siblings control are corrections officers. You won't be able to distinguish the officers from the prisoners since they've been turned into puppets, but I can scan their memories to tell them apart. He asks, if they've been turned into puppets, doesn't that mean they're already dead? What's the point of telling them apart? She says no. They're all still alive. They will be themselves again once they are released from the siblings' power. Gongyu asks, but the siblings wouldn't do that. She says let me try. I can persuade them. Gongyu tells her it's not safe to think about the baby. She says yes, I know I'm expecting, but I am a corrections officer. I'm serving my duty as an officer. Gongyu says, fine, and surround her with his powers. He picks her up. She asks, what is that? He tells her that it's my power. It will keep you safe from harm. She asks, this isn't going to affect my body, is it? It feels so weird. After that we see there are a lot of monsters standing in front of them. She tells him that's Miel's power. He's the older brother. More officers got captured by Miel, so keep that in mind. Hongyu asks, which ones are the officers? She closes her eyes and says hold on. She uses her powers. She tells him that the two are in the back. Subdue all of them first and separate. He covers her and says, I can't see. Gongyu, what's going on? He captured the officers with his power and says officers will be spared. One of the monsters attacks him. He easily destroys the monster's head and says the inmates will be killed. That's the easiest way to separate the two groups. He kills a lot of them quickly. Twins are watching him through a magic ball. Mel asks, what do you think, Miel? Do you think the outsider is stronger than our master? Miel replies, who knows? Then is he stronger than that woman? She grabs Miel's arm and says, I'm scared. Miel tells her not to worry. There are hundreds of inmates floating around them. It won't be easy for him to kill us. Jai says, what was that? Why did you trap me in? He tells her, sorry if I startled you. I should have told you in advance. She asks what just happened. He tells her I isolated the correction officers and executed all the prisoners. She asks if you executed them, but the execution devices are all on sub-level 5. He tells her I executed them myself. She is surprised and says, what? Did you just say you executed them yourself? He replies, yes. Is that a problem? Whose idea was this? He tells her that it was mine. She asks, did the warden agree to it? He told her yes. She is really angry and says, what would that be thinking? And are you okay with this, Gongyu? He tells her I did what a corrections officer has to do. That's all. Or is that a problem too? She says angrily that the job of corrections officers isn't about killing inmates. Our job is to rehabilitate them. Corrections officers ought to. Hongyu says, no, thanks. I don't need any sermons about ideals. He tells her they say heroes are supposed to save people, not kill them, and that people should only be sentenced by the law. But I know all too well what happens when one pursues nothing but ideals. They get slaughtered by beasts who can't be reasoned with. Honestly, I don't care whether I'm supposed to be a hero or a corrections officer. I should have done this a long time ago. Someone had to bring down those inhumane beasts. She says, Gongyu, they are humans. He asks, are you serious? What the hell are you talking about? What makes you think they are humans? Each criminal in sub-level 2 and below is held of killing thousands of people. All of them deserve to die. In the past, there were debates on abolishing the death penalty due to the possibility of executing wrongly convicted criminals. But no one has ever been wrongly convicted since the emergence of people with psychometric powers. I'm sure you know that better than anyone, Jia. She says, but they all have a story. He asks a story. She tells him especially Meal and Mile. He says, Ja, everyone in the world has a story to tell. But what about the victims? Don't they have a story? Besides, what difference does it make? They'll still end up dead, whether they die at my hands or by execution. She says an individual shouldn't be allowed to execute. He says no. Stop. That's enough. If you keep saying things like that, I'll send you upstairs and handle things the way I wanted to. After that, some monster appears in front of them with red halos above their head. He asks, who are the officers here? She tells the three at the back. He says, I see. She says Gango will be very sad when he finds out about this. Monsters attack him. One of them hits him on the neck. The sword cracks, but Gongyu is unharmed. He thinks Gango will be very sad when he finds out about this. Gongyu gets really angry. Gongyu thought about all the idealistic talk, which enraged and frustrated him. Talk, and more talk. It's always easier said than done. In any case, Gongyu managed. He activates Mode 5 to vent out some of his frustrations. By killing the prisoners, all the monsters around him blow up. Sinka is watching him and says, he keeps getting more awesome every time I see him. Ja says, I can see. Those three are officers. He says, okay. Please excuse me. Mael and Meal get in front of him. They say, welcome the outsider. There is also a really big monster behind them. Gongyu says, you came to find me. Well, that saved me some trouble. Nice to meet you. Ja says, Meal, Mael. Mael says, why didn't you come to us, Officer Hong? You would have surely gone to heaven. Gongyu says, release the people from your grip. Then I promise to kill you swiftly. Mael asks if there is an option where you won't kill us. Inmates on the ground floor and sublevel 1 were given the choice of putting their suppression devices back on. But everyone on sublevel 2 and below has killed thousands of people. So death is your only option. Mael says, outsider. I heard you used to work with our master and the woman who captured us, but you are very different from your colleagues. Mael says, I'm sure you'll go to hell. Meal says, stay quiet, Mael. Gongyu says, well, let's see who ends up there first. Meal says, if you promise to let us go, we will release the people. Gongyu says, request denied. Jai screams and says, Meal, Mael, don't make things worse. Put your suppression devices back on. They reply to Officer Jaihong. We didn't do anything to deserve the death penalty. You know that, don't you? They're why we must refuse your offer. Ja says, Meal. Gongyu says you can't persuade them. Words are wasted on beasts. Gongyu says, but there are other ways, so don't worry. Even beasts can understand pain. Mal says to him, we do not wish to fight you. Once you hear our story, you'll feel compelled to negotiate. Gongyu denies their request. Ja says we can talk with them and find peace. Gongyu covers her and tells her to please keep quiet. Mael says, outsider. He grabs them using his powers. Gongyu tells them a villain once told me how to torture people, but I never knew it would one day come in handy. Mael says you can't be reasoned with. You are the beast you speak of. Mael beast? No. You're a monster. They transform into the prisoners. Gongyu thinks, so they have special type superpowers. How cumbersome this is. Why do all these heinous scumbags keep calling me a monster? A lot of monsters surround him. He kills them in an instant and thinks, how disturbing this is. Mael gets scared to see him. Mal asks Mael, do you need help? She says, no. Focus on breaking the wall, Meal. Mael is using monster to attack the wall. Mael uses a magic circle and says, I'll try to slow him down. A really big magic circle appears in front of Gongyu. A lot of monsters start to come out of the magic circle. Gongyu thinks they will use summoning powers this time. Those things aren't human, and that means I can kill them all. He starts to kill them. He kills a lot of the monsters really quickly. Mael is scared. She asks Meal, how long is it gonna take? Meal replies, I need more time. Give me 10 minutes. Mael says 10 minutes. Okay. I just need to. She bites her finger. She says, but we have more time. Suddenly a loud bang happens. A hole appears in the roof. Meal asked, what happened? Gongyu appears in front of them. Gongyu tells them I gave it some thought and realized the rest will stop once I capture you. So there's no point fighting them all. This is your last chance. Release the prisoners and the officers. In exchange, I will kill you swiftly so you don't feel the pain. This is the end. Subscribe for more parts.